Okay, so I'm currently flying over somewhere in America. I clicked on a random location really, so I'm not exactly sure where I am. Of course, I'm playing in the Pimax CRYSTAL on my RTX3080, and so I'm running slightly below the standard resolution in OpenXR toolkit. I've had to drop that down slightly, but getting, the frame rate fluctuates. You can see I've got the frame rate counter on the screen now. It's quite small, so you might not see it clearly in the footage, but it's sort of fluctuating between 45 FPS up to sort of 70 FPS in places. And this is really what I was sort of getting around at New York as well. Now I've increased the resolution slightly for this area, because of course it's a little bit more sparse and I'm able to do that. But I am using the eye tracking dynamic foveated rendering as well to increase performance. This is of course the clearest I've seen Microsoft Flight Simulator on my PC, so it's doable on an RTX 3080. As always with pretty much everything with the Pimax CRYSTAL on my machine, I do have to make some compromises, and the better GPU you got, the better experience you're going to have. But this is pretty good. It's the clearest I've seen it, the sharpest. It looks great. You can be fooled at places with the photorealism of this. It really does look great. So an RTX 3080 is viable. There's tweaks that I've had to make in settings. We're not on particular high settings here, graphically or anything like that, by the way. But that's to be expected. It's just how it is really with the Pimax CRYSTAL. This is one of the most demanding simulators. I always get told off for saying games with this, but it's not, of course, as we all know, and never say it's a game. But no, I love Microsoft Flight Simulator anyway, so just flying over areas like this I've never been to in real life, I'm probably never going to visit in real life, and you get this kind of perspective and it looks great. It's not that what we're saying with my air car video, of course I was running that at 100% resolution scaling in Steam VR, and that level of fidelity is just impossible on my system, probably on even a 4090 with this title, simply because it's a very demanding game. We all know that. But it is still a great experience. And what I would actually do, rather than having this fluctuating as it is between frame rates, I've turned off what I would actually do is I would lock frame rate at 45 FPS. I would lock it in that reprojection. That's what I did on my Valve Index. What I would do with the Valve Index is I would super sample slightly, and then I would run the Valve Index at 80 Hz. Then I would lock frame rate at 40 frames per second in this one title. I would never do it in anything else. But in this, it worked great, and it was really smooth. It felt really smooth in Microsoft Flight Simulator running at those settings. So in the Pimax CRYSTAL, for example, running at 90 Hz in the headset, I would personally choose to lock it at 45 FPS and just get that more consistent frame rate, because this inconsistency where you're jumping up to from 45 to 50 to 65, it might sound like you're getting higher frame rates some of the time, so that's great, but it's not. You need to, with the refresh rates of the displays at 90, there's no multiplier for like 65 frames per second that will make that completely smooth. You will always get stuttering if you're running at those frame rates to the refresh rate, or you'll get screen tearing, and in VR you don't really get screen tearing, you just get stuttering. So personally I would always go for something like 45 FPS and then double the frame rate up to 90 and lean on that motion smoothing in order to do that, whatever the Pimax equivalent is. I can't remember the name of it. I think it might just be motion smoothing actually. But yeah, this is great anyway. It's not a bad experience at all. It looks really good. There is a little bit of stuttering, as I mentioned, because of the frame rate fluctuations, but generally it feels smooth, and the cockpit looks fantastic, really clear. again, it's the clearest I've seen it. But this was just really just a quick video because we've cancelled the Recentered podcast for today. I was planning on recording the podcast today, but instead of doing that, I thought I'd just jump into Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I thought I might as well just record it. Why not? I'm going to be getting into this a little bit more. I'm going to be trying to refine settings a little bit. Of course, I'm running in OpenXR, using the OpenXR toolkit. In fact, let's just go into settings of the OpenXR toolkit now, just so we can see what I'm doing, because I am using the eye tracking dynamic foveated rendering. Let's go into that. So you can see on the menu there, hopefully you can see that. Yeah, it should be coming out. But I'm running the foveated rendering there, got it on custom preset with eye tracking on. And you can probably see that actually, although I've left the inner resolution, the inner ring size and everything like that basically on the defaults. You can, in order to increase performance, you can change those, have smaller ring on the center, but you might notice some of the artifacts a little bit more then, but it will help performance. So let's just change that. Let's go up there, and then we'll go on to the actual resolution that I'm running this on as well. Oops, where are we? So I'm overriding the resolution now. We've got it down to 2370 by 2804, and they're really the only settings I've changed. So I've got the dynamic foveated rendering, then I've lowered the resolution down slightly, and then if we go to in-game, so the menus, there is a little bit of a bug actually with the eye tracking. Sometimes in the main menu, not so much in this in-game, but in the main menu of Microsoft Flight Simulator, you'll see the settings and everything will be a little bit blurry. It's a bit of a bug if you've got dynamic foveated rendering enabled, but when you're in-game, you don't get any of those issues. So anti-aliasing, so we're using DLSS. Now, in all honesty, when I'm going to that or not using that, it doesn't seem to really make a huge difference on the frame rate. But let's change that to TAA, running at 100% now, render scaling. Let's just have a quick look actually. It will be interesting to see if it does have an impact. In terms of visual quality, there's not a huge change, and maybe there is a slight decrease in performance on frame rate. But there's plenty more I can get into in terms of tweaking, but this is by no means a bad experience. This is pretty good. For this particular title, you know, again, it's probably the best experience I've had in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I think a 4000 series 4090 would be great, and if you really want to get deep into Microsoft Flight Simulator, if that's the main thing you want to do, then you know, the better GPU you can get, the more of an experience you're going to have, the better of the experience you're going to have. But it's viable on a 3080. It is certainly viable. And again, over cities on New York and stuff like that, I can get it running, and it doesn't really, you know, look, it doesn't really perform much lower than this, actually. Yeah, I think we are getting a benefit with that DLSS though. Let's just switch that back up. We've also got the AMD sharpening on there as well to 140. That might help. But other settings, hopefully you can see this okay. Basically running on very low settings, of course, you know, can only do so much with this, with the GPU I'm dealing with here at this kind of resolution. So let's apply that, go back out. Yeah, it does seem to make a difference. It does feel slightly smoother, I've got to be honest. Like when it's on that DLSS, it does feel slightly smoother. But the clarity, I mean, just looking out at the wings and stuff, there's definite levels of clarity here that I've not seen before in this. You know, it's just a bit of a shame. We're running a headset here, which is probably just, for this particular title, it's just it's not paired with a GPU that is going to give me, you know, a perfect experience in this. But like I mentioned, it's still the best experience I've had in Microsoft Flight Simulator. And using the Pimax CRYSTAL, it's the best experience I've had in Elite Dangerous, in races. So there's a lot to be said. I mean, this looks great. But yeah, there's plenty more tweaking I need to get into with this. I've been playing Microsoft Flight Simulator in the Pimax CRYSTAL off and on for a while now, but I'm just getting my head around the capture. I have to use a special plugin for OBS and, you know, all that behind the scenes stuff. So I'm just this next week or so, I want to make a video on the controller tracking. I'm getting deep into sort of standing motion controller based titles on the Pimax CRYSTAL, and I want to give some sort of in-depth impressions on that. So I'll have a video on that hopefully later on this week, and also some more stuff on Microsoft Flight Simulator, because those are the two areas I want to focus in on a little bit, while also of course still playing Elite Dangerous. But yeah, just a quick video today because we decided to cancel the Recenter podcast for today, so I thought I'd just jump into Microsoft Flight Simulator. But that's it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.